Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Tyler from the Keep Pounding podcast. And today I want to talk about what are some realistic expectations that we should all have for the Carolina Panthers. What are true expectations for us this upcoming season? And so I just want to talk briefly about that a little bit and then kind of go over some news and some other things as well. But we still haven't gone into our off-season workouts yet. So my opinion is subject to change with what I'm going to talk about today. But with what we know now, I'm going to give my opinion on what I feel like it's fair for us to expect from the Panthers this upcoming season. So let's dive into it. So just some news that I saw earlier today. So uh Justin Tucker. So Justin Tucker was released by the Ravens today. So Justin Tucker's been with the Ravens for a while. He's regarded as one of the best kickers out there. But he had a really off year last year. He made 73% of his field goals. He was 22 for 30. He had a season long 56 yarder. Extra points made 60 out of 62. But I saw that float around a little bit. I think it was more of a joke than, were they really wanting him or not? But people were mentioning like, oh, like the Panthers should sign him. Nah, bro, I'm good. That undrafted free agent kicker that we got, I'm good with him. Justin Jefferson, we'll see if he sticks around. If he does, I can see like the Browns or the Jets getting him. The Jets kicker last year wasn't that good either. I think he was just a tad better than Justin Tucker. Greg Zerline, I think is his name. But he made 74% of his field goals. He was 23 of 31. And, maybe you pick Justin Tucker up and hoping that, that he can get back to the old Justin Tucker, but we'll see. I can see the Browns signing him too. Just be a Browns move, to be honest. Okay, so some news that came out today. We have some off-season dates, some training dates coming up. So we have rookie minicamp. So rookie minicamp is supposed to be taking place May 9th and May 10th. So rookie minicamp is obviously the rookies coming in, doing some classroom sessions, maybe some on-field drills, no live contact, just going through a little bit of like simulation, just to kind of get a introductory more for the rookies to kind of go in this facility, know where everything is at, get the playbook early, just focusing on acclimating the rookies to our scheme. So that's taking place May 9th and May 10th. So you're obviously going to have T-Mac there, Nick Scorton, Princely. You're going to have Trevin Etienne. You're going to have Lathan Ransom. You're going to have Jimmy Horn Jr. I think I'm missing another guy. But so those would be fun to watch, but really don't really expect anything out of that. Just more so just kind of get them acclimated to everything. You do have mandatory mini camp, which is mandatory. It's involuntary. Each team is able to conduct a 1 day or a one mandatory mini camp for veteran players lasting 3 days. So you can have 7-on-7 drills. You can have 11-on-11 sessions, but again, there's no contact during mandatory mini camp. So this is like a, slight, to me, it's like getting the new veterans that you got in the offseason. So Bobby Brown III, all the other defensive players that we picked up and offensive players, but it gives them an opportunity to get on the field again, get acclimated to the facilities, get the playbook, and get the ball rolling. So that's a 3-day event, June 10th, 11th, and 12th. And then you have OTAs, which is technically voluntary, but pretty much everybody goes to these unless you have like a holdout or something going on. But this is pretty much the start of the player evaluation process, specifically if you're a player that you're fighting for a roster spot or you're fighting for a starter, like you're not a definitive starter, you should pretty much be there because that's where the coaches and GMs start to evaluate each player. The playbook does start to get installed during OTAs, but again, it's more so like OTAs. You have May 27th and May 28th. You have a break May 30th, and then you have a couple day break, and then June 2nd, June 3rd, and then June 5th. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day, session based, or 6 day event. So over the course of a little over a week. So that's basically just to kind of get the playbook started, get the install started. Training camp is still unknown. It usually runs from July to August. Typically, the past training camps have started anywhere from July 22nd to July 27th. And during training camp, that's where the full contact takes place, the scrimmages, the joint practices. So whenever I get more information on when the training camp happens, I'll let you guys know. Okay. So let's dive into this a little bit. So I saw this on Twitter. I thought this was really cool. So Nick Scott either tweeted out or someone quoted him, but basically he said, "We should be a playoff contending team, and there's no reason why we can't win the division." And I'll go into it a little bit here, but I agree. There's absolutely no reason why we can't win the division. Now, I'm not saying it's 100%. Oh, we definitely, it's a, win the division or bust, but we should be competitive for the division. We should be in the hunt all the way through the end of the season. We should not be in last place. And we'll go over what I feel like the rankings are later, but this is a division where I can see it be ultra competitive. We'll see how the Falcons do, but right now the Bucs are the favorites. But let's see, how the season unfolds. I'm looking forward to it. But this is what I want our mentality to be this going into this season is, hey, we made these additions. We're still building the team. We finished off strong last year. We can compete for the division. And I truly believe a lot of these players believe this. And so do the coaches. As a fan, I believe it. So I saw this on Twitter. I thought this was really cool. I want to share it with you guys. So I want to show you something here. Let me see.
Week.
Whoop, hold on. Okay. So Cam Newton 4th and 1. So every week, Cam and his co-host here, they look up all the tweets. They ask you to send a question, and they will read the question, shout you out, and answer it. So a week or so ago, I asked them a question and said, and they asked them a question on Twitter, and so happened they picked me to do it. So I'm going to play you parts of the video, and then we're going to react to it. But again, this all entangles into what should we expect out of this year, realistically. So let me play this here.
Fan question of the week. Let's see what we got, Peg.
All right, we got the Keep Pounding podcast. And they tweeted, what are realistic expectations for Bryce Young, T-Mac, and the Carolina Panthers this season? I know they just picked up the wide receiver from Arizona. Mm-hmm. So what's their expectation, realistically?
First off, in any type of franchise or organization, you want to win your division. The division favorites right now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC South, right? Okay. Or you may say the Atlanta Falcons. You're not expecting a big year from the Carolina Panthers or even, the New Orleans Saints because there are so many question marks still. When I look at, the...
Okay. So let's put this over here. Okay. So I just want to talk about it real quick. So he's saying that he's not expecting a big year because there's so many question marks. And I think that's fair. So there's a lot of unknowns. And we'll kind of go a little bit more in detail later. But defense is unknown. You have added a lot of different pieces to the defense. And will those pieces work? And does everyone know how to use them? Can the offense start where they left off? How does the offense look with T-Mac? Are we going to run the ball more this season? Will special teams improve from the field goal kicker to the punt returner to the kick returner? Can we win close games? There weren't a lot of close games last season because their defense was trash, but there were several close games like the Eagles game and the Chiefs game where we couldn't close it out. We could have won and we couldn't close it out. But again, I expect us to compete for the division. I don't expect us to go on a deep playoff run. I think that's unrealistic, but I do expect us to be a lot more competitive this upcoming season. We should be.
The Carolina Panthers draft, I'm extremely pleased because now you've attacked a need at the receiver position.
Yeah.
Now, my question with that specific pick is, are you going to take your job serious? There's been, reports that says that you don't watch film. That's not going to be the case now because you have to watch film. Your career is dependent on that. You have to become the best version of yourself, sharpening your skill set. His catch radius is probably bigger than any other receiver in his draft. He's a big body guy that can move as well, and that's what Bryce will need. When you talk about guys that is already on the team, when you talk about the skill set that's already on the roster right now, I think the best thing for the young receiver that they just picked up is Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
Having a good vet. There's going to be so many guys, and nobody's talking about this, but there's going to be so many guys that are blossoming or dying because of their veteran leadership.
Okay. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So he pointed out that he liked that we attacked it, the wide receiver position. So Cam Newton loved that we attacked a need. Wide receiver position was definitely a need. We all can agree that Bryce Young needs more weapons. We can agree to disagree, and we can debate about who those weapons are. But he needs more weapons. Every good quarterback has weapons. You need to give him weapons. He mentioned that he talked about T-Mac. So not watching film. So this was clarified that this was his first year in college and that he made this comment. In a sense, said it was stupid of him to say it. I do expect him to take this serious. Obviously, I believe he is and will be. And I expect him to get to work. He also mentioned, Cam mentioned that T-Mac's frame is something Bryce needed, a guy that can go up and get it. T-Mac is over 6'4". He's 219 pounds. I also agree that he needs to pick up Adam Thielen's mind and use his mentorship to help develop his skill set. Veterans, like you said, are very important. So, T-Mac leaning on Bryce Young, but then even, some of the other rookies that we drafted, Nick Scorton, Princely, vets are important. So we mentioned in the last video, Jadeveon Clowney being on possibly the trade block for cap reasons. And I can understand that to an extent, but with him being a vet and a mentor is so important for the development of these young players, Nick and Princely. Not only does Jadeveon add another player to the mix and in the edge rotation, but he, and even more importantly so, is going to help develop and mentor those two young players. So I agree with Cam where this rookie class, and every rookie, you need to be they can live or die by the veteran leadership. That's why it's important to have a mix of young and older players. You have to. It can't just be young. You have to learn how to study film, how you work out, how you eat, how do you take care of your body, how you do rehab, recovery. You have to learn how to be a pro, and that is what the vets are. So, so I wanted to just show you this to you guys. I thought it was really cool for Cam to shout out my tweet. I thought I was pretty stoked. I was at work and saw that, and I was like, no way. So it was really cool to see one of the best Panthers shout out the tweet. So that was pretty cool. So thank you, Cam, 4th and 1. I appreciate that. That was cool. Okay. there's another video that I want to go over, and it's with Smitty and his co-host. I forget the name of the show, but he's going to talk about T-Mac, and I want to kind of dive into this a little bit. So we're going to pull up Smitty's, and I'll kind of pause and stop and go talk about some things.
This was outside of the trade with Travis Hunter, really one of only two real shocks, I think, of the first round. Most of it went chalk, like you were saying, not super entertaining. This was a surprise because a lot of people thought defense. And I think Ejiro Evero might be getting a little frustrated there in Tampa.
Okay, so this first point I want to talk about. A shock that T-Mac was selected, I think, is a little overstated. That doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't call it a shock. Yes, half the fan base wanted defense, but the other half wanted T-Mac. It was clear on Twitter. Half the fan base wanted Jalen Walker or some other defensive player, and the other half wanted clearly T-Mac. So I wouldn't say it was a shock. Do they not recall all the free agent money, the signings that occurred just before the draft on the defensive side of the ball? So they act like we didn't do anything on defense. This is when I'm watching this, it doesn't make sense to me that they're acting like we just kind of left our defense the way it was. And sorry, the co-host I was talking about was James Palmer. I just remembered his name, but so shock, I would say, is a little bit overblown there. But let's continue.
And,
Listen,
and
bro,
Charlotte,
you can.
guys got no players, but they go with
people.
the receiver.
People respond to me on social media saying that first of all, the Panthers had 9 picks, and so they used 8 of them in this order of needing help. Edge rusher was number 1,
100%.
safety was number 2, corner number 3, wide receiver number 4, D tackle. That was the rank of needs.
Okay.
I understand getting it because it's a need. What I was shocked at was there were a little bit more impactful players on defense that I thought you needed to help calm the offensive storm that is mounted on Bryce Young and Coach Canales on the Carolina Panthers.
Playing behind all the time.
And playing behind, what I thought.
Okay, let's talk about a few things here. So he talked about the draft need, and I believe he gave us his order of need. I wouldn't say I agree with the order there. So he said edge, safety, corner, receiver, D tackle. I would agree with the edge being number 1. Coming into to draft day, before, obviously going into round 1, edge, in my opinion, was more important than wide receiver. But again, and even with safety and corner, that to me, the players that were at safety and corner, none of those matched their value was even close to 8 overall. I liked Nick Emenwari the most. I liked Will Johnson the most as a corner, but he had injury concerns. You weren't going to pick him in the top 10. And then Nick Emenwari, I think he's a great player, but is his position and his skill set warrant top 10? No, maybe. I don't think so. To me, Jalen Walker was my pick. I wasn't mad with James Pierce Jr., but Jalen Walker was my pick. I was okay with wide receiver. I'm okay with T-Mac now. By the time I'm like, maybe Matthew Golden, because they have different skill sets, as far as that skill set isn't really on the roster right now. But at the end of the day, Dan Morgan needs to pick best player available, regardless of position. Draft isn't necessarily meant and shouldn't be for need. That's where you get in trouble. So that's where I would say, Steve, put your GM hat on. What you're talking about impactful players. What players were impactful? He said there was more impactful players on defense that he thought would impact the team more. Well, let's talk about some of the players that were drafted after T-Mac that he could be possibly talking about. I remember there was Michael Williams that went to the 49ers, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, that went to the Dolphins, Jalen Walker, okay, I can understand maybe a little bit, went to the Falcons, Walter Nolan, you had Shamar Stewart, Jade Barron, Derek Harmon, James Pearson, the Falcons again. Like, none of those are like, wow, those are big, impactful players. Like, we knew we could get a safety and a corner in day 2 and 3. And again, the value at 8 that I talked about, safety and corner, was not there. But the impactful players on defense that was there that were better value than T-Mac, who are you talking about? Like, put a name to it. Don't just say impactful players. Who was it? Because you can make an argument with Jalen Walker, but then knowing his injury that I didn't even know about till it came out during draft night, can you argue that he's going to be a better player than T-Mac? Maybe. I'm not a professional, but I mean, there wasn't a clear-cut player that had a better value than T-Mac, in my opinion. To me, they all had pretty much the same value. Let's continue.
And what some coaches in that draft room thought was like, yo, this is not what we talked about a few hours before the draft. And I talked to several GMs and several coaches, bro, the morning of the draft was calling me, hey, man, what do you think about this guy? Hey, I like this guy, but what about this guy? What do you think about this guy? Hey, call me if you need anything. So I was asking questions, and a lot of teams, and you can see by Michael Parsons' thing, the Cowboys had thought they were a shoo-in.
Oh, I was told directly from the Cowboys. That was their dream pick at 12. They wanted T-Mac. That was their dream.
Okay. So the first thing he talked about, what he talked about, like him and some coaches in the Panthers draft room, he said that. He said him and some of the coaches in the Panther draft room both thought this isn't what we talked about a few hours in the draft. Is he referencing the T-Mac selection? Bro, if so, I call cap on as far as the coaches that were surprised by the T-Mac pick. You can't tell me they all of a sudden at the last minute, the last hour, they changed. Dude, that doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I bet you that there are some coaches that may have told you that this is who they're thinking, but they're not going to tell you. Even if you're great friends with them, they're not going to leak that information. They know that you're a host on a show. They're not going to say, hey, we want this, and then like, oh, I think the Panthers might be doing it. They're not stupid. They're probably throwing smoke. You cannot tell me that they were shocked. Dan Morgan did an interview with Thomas Davis on the Carolina Panthers official website, and he said that he knew that T-Mac was the pick at 8 early on in the process. And I'm sure they modified their board collectively, but probably thought, like, you know, at our selection, we have a real shot at getting this guy. But you can't tell me that the board wasn't set, and that if Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Mason Graham were gone, which they were, that T-Mac was not next on their draft board. That doesn't make any sense, because we heard Dave Canales say during the presser after they selected T-Mac that once they knew and they saw that Mason Graham was gone, that they knew that they were hoping, like, oh, please let T-Mac stay on the board. Dude, no coach in that Panthers war room should have been shocked that they picked T-Mac after that. That doesn't make any sense. That's cap. That's cap. And then you had James Palmer that mentioned when Steve Smith was talking about the dream picks, the Cowboys' dream pick at 12 was T-Mac. And then you have Steve Smith that's like, thank you. Like he's referencing like T-Mac's selection was a reach because the Cowboys picked at 12, or was it 15, something like that. Bro, again, outside of Hunter, Carter, Graham, anything else was going to seem like a reach no matter what, because there were 3 blue chip players in this draft. Again, Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Mason Graham. And all three of those were gone. The rest is like pick who fits your scheme, who you like as a player. And then when Steve Smith was going through the list of team needs before the Cowboys, and he mentioned our needs, he said edge, safety, and corner. Bro, did you forget you mentioned receiver earlier? We need a receiver too. This isn't a shock. This isn't like, like the Panthers made like this ridiculous. I think you're like one of the few people that think this. I mean, I understand, like, I was on the anti-T-Mac train, right? And I said multiple times that I think T-Mac is a great player. I never said that he was trash. And I'm not saying that Steve Smith is saying that. But I can understand why a team has T-Mac over Golden. I can understand that. And then they said again that we had an opportunity to add a game changer on the defense. Who in the hell was the game changer? Don't say that we had opportunity to draft a player. Name the player and justify why they're a better player than T-Mac and why that's better for our team. Again, Jay, there's a few you can argue, but put a name to it. Don't be like, oh, there's several players that we could have picked from. Who was it? But to me, the values from pick 8 to 32 was pretty much the same. There wasn't a huge difference in grades. Let's continue this.
Pick at 12, that was where they were going to go.
They assumed that some of these teams before them, the Saints, they needed a corner, they needed a quarterback.
They needed tackle, and they went there.
The Panthers, they needed an end safety corner. Jaguars needed a D tackle, but they did some funky stuff. The Patriots needed an O lineman. 49ers needed a D tackle. The Bears needed an O lineman. Saints needed a corner or O lineman. So it threw me off because now you got some good picks later in the round, some what they call value picks. But when you're looking at this defense who gave up a ton of points, you don't really want to add
Nick Scourton
value
really a lot
picks.
better than Jalen Walker.
You want to add
now.
game changers.
Yeah. And you had an
Who's the
opportunity
game
to do that.
changer?
Correct. And is T-Mac a
Who
game
was it?
changer? Here's my answer to that. Like I stated, at the college level, he changed the game. He did a great job. And I've never met the young man personally, so I have no ill will towards him. I don't dislike him, and I don't like him. Meaning, I haven't met him to give you a fair assessment. All I can do is look at his film and evaluate him as his film. I don't know him personally. Obviously, he's going to be here in Charlotte, so I will get to know him if we choose to have that relationship. If we don't, I'm going through some stuff.
Okay. So, yes, he asked his T-Mac a game changer, and yes, he's right. He was a game changer in college. But you can't say that is someone a game changer when they haven't played a single snap in the NFL. You don't really know if someone's a game changer until, in my opinion, after 3 years, you can then truly evaluate a player and say, are they a game changer or not? And was that pick warranted? Was that the correct pick? So to say that there are game changers still left on the board on the defensive side of the ball, I just disagree with that. We can't, again, deny that Bryce Young needed a weapon. We can't deny that Bryce needed a weapon on offense. And I feel like T-Mac's grade was fair at 8. I just think it was fair.
Hey, yeah, things happen, right? You know what I'm saying?
Detours occur.
Yeah. But I thought was interesting is when I break down that receiver room, you have Adam Thielen, possession receiver. Jalen Coker, possession receiver. I guess David Moore's a speed guy.
Okay.
Maybe he's a speed guy. What would you say he's a speed guy?
Yeah.
No.
It's more of that than possession receiver. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Xavier Liggett, what would you consider him?
Work in progress?
Thank you. So work in progress means technically right now, possession, because you're really not sure what you're going to get out of him. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And then they just got my dog. And I call him my dog because I love him, man. Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow ain't outbeating paint drying, okay? That Hunter that ain't who he is. That's not what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And he'll tell you that. You go and get in the 6th round with the 208th overall pick, Jimmy Horn,
Great
which
value
is
pick.
speed. But prior
Yep.
to 208th in the 6th round, you drafted what you already had in the room. And I was shocked when you have a Matthew Golden with speed. I mean, you had Higgins, who went later. So it was just a lot
not
of
at 8.
things
Come on now.
in my evaluation process that I'm looking at. I don't look at these players good or bad where I like them. I don't know them. Here's what I try to do. Listen, folks, I try not to meet these individuals before the draft process because I have in the years before.
You should if you're going to be
And
a GM
they have said things or you saw things.
Play the GM hat and
TSA,
criticize
say
other
something, say
GMs for their
something.
selections. You should meet with them.
That you go,
Yeah.
I kind of see why he dropped, or I kind of see what they mean. And so I try to stay out of that personal game because people assume
part of the
like
process.
they do. Oh, I heard the list of Steve dislikes him because he's taller than him. Dude, everybody's taller than me.
Steve hates the NFL then.
Hey, Steve doesn't like him because he was drafted before him. I was drafted 76. A lot of people were drafted for me. Steve is jealous of his career. I have several injuries and
They haven't played a
line
lack
of
of
duty
football yet.
checks I'm getting that tells me I don't.
Okay. All right. So he mentioned and talked about the receivers we still have are all possession receivers that we drafted T-Mac, the same skill set that we have on the team. And I pretty much said this before we selected T-Mac. I do agree with this to an extent. Yes, that's correct for now. XL has speed. He runs a 4.39. If he can fix the drops and continue to develop, XL is going to look totally different than T-Mac. And then them saying, Jason Palmer and Steve saying like that David Moore's our speed guy. Bro, David Moore is slower than XL. What are you talking about? David Moore ran like a 4.49 or something like that. And XL ran a 4.39. And you can tell game speed that XL is faster than David Moore. So David Moore is not a speed guy. That's I don't know what they're talking about. David Moore is just a depth piece. That's it. He is not a speed guy. I don't know what they're talking about. Jalen Coker, I agree. Adam Thielen, I agree. Hunter Renfrow, I agree. Jimmy Horn Jr., yes, they mentioned it. He has speed. We got him in the 6th round. Can he be our speed guy and contribute? Maybe. I think right now he's just going to be nothing more than a punt returner, kick returner, and maybe some depth in certain situational things. Depending if there's a player that goes down, we'll see how he develops and performs in OTAs and training camp. But we can't count on him being that guy. And he talked about Matthew Golden. I do agree. And I mentioned earlier, Matthew Golden, his skill set, we don't already have on the team. That's why I wanted him if we drafted a wide receiver because of that reason. But and later in this video, the co-host said that they weren't on T-Mac until like later in the process. So in the video later, I won't play it, but later in the video, the co-host said that we weren't on T-Mac until later in the process where they did an interview that didn't go great. So like during the top 30 visits, there was reports supposedly from that he's saying, I didn't read anything like this, but supposedly from according to James Palmer that the interview didn't go well. And then Steve Smith will then later on and say, well, if you want a kid, you can kind of convince yourself basically that you should get him. And I'm calling cap on that. Like Dan Morgan said that he was in on T-Mac from the beginning, but more so, I wasn't in on the meetings, but neither were they. Everything they hear, again, I mentioned this earlier, it could have been smoke, just like a smoke screen on purpose in order for Steve and James Palmer to say, hey, this is what I heard, and therefore Steve will tell other teams that are asking him, what do you think the Panthers think of T-Mac? Or what do you think the Panthers think of this player, this player? They're not going to tell you, Steve, that they're bored, bro. You make content on YouTube. They're not going to tell you their plans. So like I get like, like if I, if I'm in that position, if I ever was so lucky and they're telling me this, like, okay, like I can believe them, but you have to have in the back of your head, they're not going to really tell me all this because this is what I do for a living. And if I'm really good at it and they're like, wait, Steve, you're connected to the Panthers. Usually you're a huge Panthers fan. Hey bro, hey, what do you think they're going to do with this? They're not going to trust me. They're not going to trust Steve Smith. Why would they do that? So to me, that everything is a smokescreen. So the stuff you hear, I believe you heard it, but is it really the truth? I don't think so. But at the end of the day, I trust Dan. I trust Dave on the player's character. It seems that this is what they really value. A T-Mac at 8, and I don't see them getting a guy that has an attitude problem. If T-Mac was a drama queen and he didn't love football, they wouldn't have got him. Can wide receivers have a diva mentality? Yes, but at the end of the day, the perfect example is Cam Newton. Do you love football and do you hate to lose? So if T-Mac is very emotional and very, kind of like Cam Newton was, just very, very, so what do I want to look for? It's very evident that you're upset. I don't care. As a fan, I don't care if you put that towel over your head or whatever. I could care less. That's more about media. As a true diehard fan, I don't care, bro. I don't care if he's gonna get mad at at a coach or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're professional, all you want to do is win. You want to hold people accountable, including yourself. I'm okay with it. Now, again, I respect Steve Smith's opinion. He was a hell of a player. I think he knows what to look for in a prospect, especially in the wide receiver position. I just respectfully disagree with a lot that he's saying here. Not 100% of it, but most of it. I agree. The only thing I really agree with is is T-Mac's skill set similar to what we have on the team? And the answer is yes. It's not a question. That's a fact. Now, and that's regarding speed, that type of thing. But T-Mac, there's not a lot of players on the wide receiver position in the wide receiver room that have his hands. I think he has the best hands already in the room. He's obviously the biggest. I understand he's a bigger target. He's over 6'4". Jalen Walker was like 6'2", 6'3". Jalen or XL is 6 foot, 6'1". But T-Mac makes our wide receiver better. It's not even a question either. T-Mac makes us better. He's a reliable. I mean, he hasn't played an NFL snap yet. I understand that, but he's a good wide receiver that I think will contribute well for us this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see it. But I just want to talk about this. I saw this on YouTube several days ago, and I just wanted to address it a little bit. So let's go back to here. So another thing I want to talk about. So any other moves to be made? After the draft, I would say our biggest needs right now are corner safety. Now, corner, we'll talk about corner first. J.C. Horn, dog, top 10 corner, not even a question. If he stays healthy, dominant. Mike Jackson, great CB2. I would like us to upgrade eventually, but he can get the job done. He showed that he could do it last year. But I'm concerned about depth. What if J.C. Horn is out for a couple weeks? What if Mike Jackson is out a couple weeks? God forbid, they have a season-ending injury. Who is going to pick that up? That's a huge drop-off, just like last year was. There's going to be a huge, huge drop-off, especially if it's J.C. Horn. Knock on wood. And even Mike Jackson. There is a huge drop-off if one of these players gets hurt. So I looked up a few days ago who are some players that are out there that we possibly could target. And I feel like you got to target a corner safety. and maybe they do it mid-season or maybe like during training camp to see like how things play out, but they need a depth piece so bad. That's why in round 4 when they got Trevor Etienne, I'm not mad at the player, but I would have loved for them to have a equal value pick of what they had for Trevor Etienne for a corner that could be a good solid depth piece, because running back Trevor Etienne may not be seeing a lot of playing time this season, but he's going to, based depending on what we see this season, there's going to be a lot of question marks about the running back room next season. But going back to the corners, we would definitely be using this player more than Trevor Etienne, in my opinion. But again, the draft isn't about need; it's about best player available. So I'm not mad. But let's go over some of the players. So you have Asante Samuel Jr. He's still out there unsigned. He's 25. He played, I believe he played for the Chargers last season. He played all 16 games. He had 73 tackles for 1 pick, 5 pass breakups, and he had an 87.4 passer rating allowed in coverage, which is But again, he adds depth. So I don't think he would beat out Mike Jackson unless there was something that they saw just in training camp that they had to take Asante Samuel Jr. over him. But this gives me a lot more comfort having this guy as a backup than what we have right now. In the first 3 seasons Asante Samuel played, he had 35 pass breakups. He did have a shoulder injury that limited him in 5 games last year. He also had a stinger that popped up last season as well. So he's got some injury concerns. But I do see him potentially sign a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe 3 to 5 million per season. Nothing crazy, but just someone that adds some solid depth to the corner position. And who knows, maybe he does really well and he could be someone you extend and gives you added more depth. But, and I mentioned before in my previous videos, this is Dan Morgan's second offseason. It takes time to go from the worst team in the league to a competitive football team day in and day out. It takes time. So we're getting there, but cornerback right now, post-draft, is where we're hurting the most from a depth perspective. The other player that we possibly could but sign is, we talked about last week, Russell Douglas. So he played for the Bills last season, I believe. He's 30. He played all 16 games last season. He had 7 pass breakups, and he had 122 passer rating allowed. Not that good. He had a really rough season last season, but he was really good from 2021, 2022, and 2023. During that time frame, he had 14 picks, 14 passes defended, and I believe he played for Green Bay Packers in 21 and 22, and then he was traded, or he was a free agent in the offseason, and then Buffalo picked him up. But he's a tall player. He's 6'2", 209 pounds. He has a prototypical press man frame. He's really good in the press man schemes. And again, I think it's just going to be a short-term deal with him. No injuries I could really think of, but he had a pretty rough year last year. I'm not sure if there were certain circumstances with that, but last year wasn't a good year. But if we can get him on a team-friendly or on a friendly cap deal, and he can get back to that 2023 season type of play, this isn't someone I'll be mad about. Another player that I saw that hasn't been drafted yet or been signed yet is Mike Hilton from the Bengals. He's 31. He's a corner that played for him last season. He had 16. He played the whole season last year. He had 5 pass breakups. He had 86 passer rating allowed and 74.6 completion rate. So last year was subpar, was not a good year. But again, the defense was trash. The Bengals defense has been depleted because of the signing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But he's actually been a really good top slot defender. He had a PFF grade above 70 in his 6 out of 8 seasons. He has really good blitzing ability. And this is someone that, again, would beat depth. He wouldn't be someone that's going to beat, in my opinion, beat out Mike Jackson. But this is someone that just gives you depth that can hold their own until that starter comes back. One person that I feel like would compete for Mike Jackson, it would be for a year rental, in my opinion. I'm surprised he hasn't retired yet, but Stephon Gilmore. Could he come back? Maybe. But he previously played, what did he play for the Commanders? I can't remember. I think he did. But he's 34. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. I think he played for Minnesota. He didn't play for the Commanders. He played for Minnesota. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He still played at a high level last year. He was pretty solid on the defense. He had 40 tackles, 40 solo tackles, 56 total tackles, 1 pick, and 9 passes defended. And he had like a mid PFF grade. It was 63.9 overall. His run defense was super solid with 77.6, but coverage was like mid, maybe a little bit below mid. And again, I think this is just a 1 year deal, but I don't think that's likely, because if he does do another year, does he really want to come back to the Panthers? I don't know. Maybe. Isn't he from here? The Carolinas? I don't know. And then a couple other players. So one other player. So Paulson Adebo, he played for the Saints last season. He played 4 games and he broke his femur. During those 4 games, he had 13 tackles and 2 pass breakups. But he was pretty productive in his 2024 season before his injury. I believe he had like 19. No, sorry. It was 30. No, I take that back. But the 3 seasons before that, he had 8 picks and 37 pass breakups. So this is a guy that, if you feel good with him medically and he can get back to that, this isn't a guy that I would be mad about having at corner at all. And he's a former division rival player. I wouldn't be mad about it. But again, do you feel good about his medical, and can he get back to that play before he injured his femur? Because the femur, that's a strong. I'm assuming this happened during game, but that's a hard bone to break. That's the hardest bone to break in the whole body, the femur, and that's painful, and that takes a while for it to heal. So safety. So safety is to me the second most biggest need on the team right now post draft. So we talked about it. We talked about it on the last video. But you have safety Julian Blackmon that's still out there. He's 26. He has started 62 games over 5 seasons with the Colts. Last year, he had 16. He played 16 games. He had 3 picks, 4 passes defended, 86 total tackles, and he had a PFF grade that had him 48 out of 170 safeties. So, to me, he's a little bit better than mid, and he gives you some depth. And I think this would be someone that would compete for a starting position, would probably have the upper hand over Lathan Ransom. But even if Lathan Ransom beat him, which would be great, this adds really good depth, and again, adds you vet leadership for that position. You also have Justin Simmons out here that's still out there. He's 31. He played for the Falcons. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He played the whole season last season. He had 2 picks, 7 passes defended, 62 tackles. He allowed 5 touchdowns. He allowed 12.6 yards per reception, and he ranked 113 out of 170 safeties. So he didn't have the greatest season last year, but this guy's a former Pro Bowler, and their defense was trash last year, and their offense wasn't that good either, especially the back half of the season. So maybe that has something to do with it, but this is someone, again, that it's better than what we have, as far as depth. Right now, I believe it's going to be obviously Trayvon Moorick, and then it's going to be Lathan Ransom. But can he beat out Lathan Ransom? Possibly. Another safety that we possibly could pick up maybe is Tashawn Gibson. So in 2024, Tashawn did not play any regular season games. He had a 6-game suspension for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing substance policy. He was signed by the Jaguars in August last year, but was released in November after serving his suspension. Once he was released, he was picked up by the 49ers, but never elevated to the active roster. His 2023 season, he played the whole season where he had 60 total tackles. He had 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 pick, and 3 passes defended. And his PFF grade was 72.4. So there were, during that season, only 5 safeties were graded higher than him. So could you sign him for a 1-year deal and see if he can get back to that form? I wouldn't be mad about it. You also have the other one that we'll talk about is Jordan Whitehead. He previously played for the Bucks. He had an injury last year, where he had a pectoral injury that he got in week 12 that landed him on IR. There was a possibility he was going to come back late in the season, but he had a car accident right after that when he was during that window for him to come back. And in that car accident, he suffered a neck injury and he was out for the season. But during the 2024 season, he played 12 games. He had 79 tackles, 49 were solo, 29 were assists, 3 passes defended. And he contributed really early in the season with 19 tackles in the first 2 games where he led tackles for the Bucks defense. So this is a decent player, but again, is his medical okay? So there are some players that are still out there that we possibly could target that I think will help add more competition. That's what I want at the end of the day. I don't feel good about the competition at depth corner and our free safety and depth at safety. We need to add to our secondary. When we play the Bucks with this secondary, unless especially if there's injuries, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. So those are some positions that I would love to see Dan Morgan attack a little bit more, but we'll see. So unknowns. So there's a lot of unknowns, and Cam mentioned a little bit about it, but I want to go in depth a little bit here. So defense is an unknown. There are numerous new additions to the defensive lineup. So as you guys recall, we signed Bobby Brown III, our nose tackle. We have Deshaun Wharton, defensive end. We have Patrick Jones II. That's the outside linebacker edge. You have Trayvon Moehrig, safety. You have Christian Rosebaum, linebacker. That's going to most likely be depth. We'll see if he competes with Josie Jewell or Trevin Wallace, but I think he's going to be more special teams and a good solid depth at linebacker. You obviously signed Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, Princely, Ole Miss, Lathan Ransom. And then you also have the return of Derek Brown, which is significant. The key considerations include his ability to maintain health throughout the season. He is returning slightly lighter and stronger, which suggests the potential for a dominant performance this year. But can he get back into form? So there's a lot of unknowns. And can they play together? Can this team, and it ties into the next question here, can Evero put this team together, these new faces, and make it work? Evero's job is on the line this year. Evero is going to have to prove to me that he is still a good defensive coordinator, which I believe that he is. He gave up the most points allowed by defense in a season. He's on the hot seat. He was given the benefit of the doubt due to the talent we had on defense. The talent. But we all have to remember the 2023 season where Evero's defense ranked 4th in yards allowed, where they allowed no more than 293 yards per game. And he set a franchise record for fewest passing yards allowed in a game, where they allowed no more than 171 yards per game, despite our struggling in inept offense. That was, again, Bryce's rookie season. So can Evero play to the strengths and know the the player's strengths and get the most out of all these players. And I'm just like Dan, you got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt because he showed that he's capable of doing it the year prior in 2023. And we helped rebuild the offensive line at the detriment of the defense. We took a lot of resources away from the defense. Frankie Louva, Brian Burns, two big notable differences. And we had to do that to see, is Bryce Young going to be our guy? He proved that he possibly very well could be. But that was the question you had to answer last season. That question has pretty much been answered. It's still TBD. But they had to do that. And again, that's the detriment of the defense. So you can't really blame too much on Evero. But there are several parts of the season, there are several games where you're like, bro, what are you doing? There were several games, I can't remember the teams that we played against, but there were several games where we were up by 6 points, or we're up, by 4. Maybe it was the Bucks actually. We're up by 4 points with 33 seconds left. Nope, Baker, or maybe it was 2 points. I can't remember, but Baker came down and drove down the field within 33 seconds and scored. 33 seconds. Baker Mayfield. Seriously, I don't care who you have on defense. To an extent, you can't call plays to make sure that team doesn't score on you in 33 seconds. Seriously. So Evero, that's what that was pissing me off about Evero last season. There was at least 2 games that I can remember that it was the same thing. Up by a few points, they let the team drive within less than 2 minutes and scored. But I do remember the Bucks game. The Bucks were one of them. They allowed the offense to go down the field within 33 seconds. He does that again, he's out of here. Evero's on the hot seat. Another unknown. Are we going to run the ball like Canales said he wanted to? Again, I get our defense was horrible and we were playing from behind a lot, but there were games where we could have ran the ball more, but Canales elected not to. I understand that with Brooks out and having Miles Sanders as your backup, why we didn't run as much as that Dave probably wanted to. But this year, there is no excuse this season with adding Rico Dottle and having the rookie Trevin Etienne to the running back room, barring injuries. There's no excuse why not to run the ball. And that's going to help Bryce Young. If we can, again, Cam said it before, what helps a quarterback the most? A solid running game and a good defense. We have an amazing offensive line. We have Chuba Hubbard that had a hell of a season. You have Rico Dottle that had a hell of a season. They both can run and catch out of the backfield. There's no excuse why we should not be a running team. That should be a part of our identity, and it's been in our identity for a while. But this is something where I can see that if we have a solid running game, better than last year, I do see Bryce Young blossoming more. And can Bryce Young, can he pick up where he left off last season? From whenever he started really blossoming was weeks 10 from 18. And PFF gave him, like, his grade from weeks 10 to 18 was 86.4 overall grade, which is a huge improvement from weeks 1 through 9 where he had a 51.5. He had big-time throws. He recorded 22 big-time throws in the second half, second most in the NFL, and finished the season, the second half he was second most in the NFL on the back half of the season. But overall, just the whole overall season, he finished with 27 big-time throws, which ranked him 7th. And people were worried about his arm strength. His passing grade ranked 6th in overall passing grade and tied for 6th in passing grade under pressure over the last 9 weeks. And we saw that the back half of the season. Him throwing with a guy right in his face, dime. So if Bryce Young can again get back to his form, how he was last season, this season's looking there's a lot of unknowns, but that's a big unknown. If he can get back to the way he was playing and play at a consistent level, bro. Deep passing, he was tied for second in PFF's deep passing grade which is 20 plus yards or 20 yards or more, and he was fourth in average depth of target. So he wasn't, a little 4-yard pass here, a little screen pass here. He was throwing down the field the back half of the season because he was confident. Turnover-worthy plays, he posted a 2.6% turnover-worthy play rate that ranked him 23rd among quarterbacks with only 2 interceptions in his last 8 games. Only 2 picks in his last 8 games. But week 17, the game against the Falcons, showed us what level Bryce can be for us. Because if you remember, that was the game where both defenses were trash. And Bryce answered every time. And our defense was a lot worse than the Falcons' defense. And we were decimated with injuries. But if we can get to that level, if Bryce Young can get to that level almost every game, I will bet we win the division, in my opinion. We will win the division. If Bryce Young can get to that level pretty consistently, 90% of the 90% of the time, bro, we're winning the division. I'm pretty confident with that. We're at least making a wild card spot. Another unknown for me is Canales, Dave Canales. Can Canales continue to modify the play calling to take advantage of the opposing defense's weaknesses? Can he make in-game changes, second half adjustments? We saw Dave go through some rookie head coaching growing pains, more so at the first half of the season. He did improve as the season went on, though. But can he properly balance the run and pass play calling? Obviously, barring injuries and us falling from behind, can he keep that balance? Because there were games where I felt like they could have ran the ball more, and they didn't. I feel like he's done a great job as a team, team building the locker room and having a clear vision from a coaching team identity perspective. And I still think Dave is trying to find and develop our identity. So I'm a big fan of Dave Canales. I expect big things for him, but can he continue to grow as a head coach and a play caller to help us win more games and put these players in a better position to succeed? I'm looking forward to it. And then you have the wide receiver tight end group. We knew coming in the offseason that we wanted to add more weapons for Bryce Young. T-Mac obviously does that. T-Mac that we discussed before has elite hands and is great at going up and getting the ball. XL, he gets more criticism than I think is warranted. Did he have multiple crucial drops? Yes. But we have to remember, it was his rookie season, guys. Like, let this guy develop. Like, yes, he deserves criticism, but like the guy going out and, wearing a, belt buckle and being interviewed by Amy. Oh, I forget her name. Really good reporter. I forget her name. As Adams, I think is her for last name. I can't remember. But let the guy enjoy his off season. You saw how huge this guy is. The dude's been working out. You saw him. There was pictures of him on the Panthers website with him working out with Bryce Young and Robert Hunt and some of the other guys. The dude's working out. Give the guy a break. The guy, I understand he made some crucial drops, but like, give him another season or two, man. Give the guy a break. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to get better. Jalen Coker, he was reliable last season. I hope he continues to develop. Again, he's going to be that possession receiver. And a big one to me that not a lot of people are talking about is Jatavion Sanders. Can Jatavion Sanders, and I mentioned it last week, can Jatavion Sanders get to how he was the first half of the season? Because you remember he had the neck injury, and whenever he came back, he really wasn't the same. And that's where you saw Tommy Tremble and Sanders kind of share reps. So these are a lot of unknowns, and I get this is only going into year 2 of Dan Morgan and Dave Canales' football team. But there's still a lot of unknowns. But I want to kind of go over some, in my opinion, again, right now, based on what I know, what are some best case scenarios and worst case scenarios. So we're going to talk about our schedule. So, in my opinion, the best case scenario is we go 10-7. I hope I'm wrong and we go 12-5. But being honest, I want to go over. I do think we'll kind of split the division. I do think we'll beat the New Orleans Saints both home and away. But I think we'll split between the Bucs and the Falcons. It always changes where I always feel like we're going to win the home games, but it always seems that we lose the home games and win away whenever we split with the division rivals. But I have us winning our home games with the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints, and I have us losing against the Bucs away, losing with the Falcons away, but still beating the Saints, because the Saints, I think, are going to be trash with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shaw. I just think they're going to be horrible. The Rams, I think that's a loss, even though it's home. I just think Matthew Stafford and crew, again, I hope I'm wrong, but I think we lose that game. You have the Cardinals. I think, can the Cardinals make a step? Maybe. Kyler Murray seemed like get a little bit better, but I think that's something we can win on the road. The Seahawks, I'm giving that a loss. I think the Seahawks have really good defense, and I understand they have kind of, who do they get with the quarterback? They let Geno Smith go. Sam Darnold, right? Oh man, Sam Darnold coming back. Man, I can see us winning that, dude. I can see us winning that, actually. I'm going to leave it, but I can see us being I might change the best case scenario to 11-6. I can see us winning that. The 49ers away, that's going to be hard. It's hard to win in San Francisco. We almost did it a couple years ago, the last time we went to the San Francisco, the last time we played in San Fran, but it's really hard to win in San Fran. I understand they're going through a lot of changes. They had an off year last year, but that defense is still big time, man. So I have us losing that. I think we beat the Patriots. New coaching staff, new quarterback, pretty much new quarterback, new weapons. Even though it's away, I think that's a win. Buffalo Bills, loss. If we can beat the Buffalo Bills, bro, that's going to be a statement win there. But I have us losing. The Miami Dolphins, they have a lot of turnover. Tua, can he get back to how he was before the concussions? There's a lot of unknowns with that, so I have us winning there. The New York Jets win. The Packers, I see us losing. The Packers are a good football team. I think they're going to compete for the NFC Conference Championship. The Cowboys, I think we will get revenge for how we played against them last season. We did horrible. That was one of the worst games that we had when Bryce Young was doing well in the back half of the season. We played at home and we just played like trash. So we get a redemption game here. I think we'll come away with a win with that. And then the Jaguars, we're winning that, bro. I see us winning that too. So best case scenario, 10-7, 11-6. But let's go into worst case scenario. So obviously, I think the Bucs are the favorites. I have us losing both. I don't think we'll be swept by the Falcons, so I have us splitting that. I can see us maybe losing against the Saints. I would be so pissed, but I have us splitting with the Saints too. The Rams and I already think the Rams are going to beat us. The Cardinals, I can see us maybe they develop getting better, and Marvin Harrison has a great year, and Kyler Murray gets better, and they beat us on an away game. I already said the Seahawks and the 49ers will beat us. The Bills will beat us. I still think no matter what, we're going to beat the Patriots. The Dolphins and the Jets, I still think we beat them. The only thing I changed here was the Cowboys beating us, and I already had the Packers beating us as well. So I think worst case scenario, we become 6-11. And if we become 6-11, that I don't think you'll see Dan Morgan and Dave Canales fired, but I will see I think that's when you'll start to hear the rumblings of like, oh, we're going. I think that's when you may see Evero gone if it's a defensive issue, but I don't think you'll see Dave Canales and Dan Morgan gone. depending on how things kind of end on the back half of the season. But you'll start to hear reports or rumors or whatever. You'll hear that more. So 6-11, I feel like, is our floor. Our ceiling, I believe, is 11-6. So with all that, who's going to be the 2025 NFC South winner? So as I mentioned before, I think the Bucs are the betting favorites. You have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They added Emeka Egbuka from the Ohio State to the wide receiver group. And I think, again, we talked about it. They're really going to challenge our secondary. Our secondary, especially if there's an injury, is a concern. I think the Panthers, and this is again realistically, I have right now the Bucs winning the division, the Panthers coming in second place, the Falcons coming in third. Some people have them at second or winning the division, but with Michael Penix at QB, I don't see that happening. Plus, the defense last year was just awful. I understand they added Jalen Walker, they added James Pierce Jr. to the defense, but they need more than that. I don't see two rookies giving our offensive line too many issues. So I have the Falcons at 3 and the Saints last. The Saints, who is their QB? Is it going to be Spencer Rattler? Is it going to be Tyler Show? Neither of them scare me, and their cap situation is going to be an issue, not just for this year, but I think it's going to be an issue for next year as well. I just think they're going to be a bad football team for a little while, just with the cap issue, because the cap it catches up with you sooner or later. So it catch up with you, especially if you cannot draft well. So, and the Saints didn't really have that good of a draft, to be honest. Like, I forget who their first round pick was, but I wasn't mad at the first round pick. It was pretty decent. I can't remember who it was, but the rest of their draft picks, I'm like, they needed a Panther draft, and they did not do that. Bro, why are you getting a quarterback? I don't understand. Just rock with Spencer Rattler. I don't know. And Tyler Show, I believe, is like 25. He's older. So after his rookie contract, like, he's 30, and I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. So that's what I think. And those are some realistic expectations that we can all expect from the Panthers this upcoming season. If you like the show, hit a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and just let me know what you thought of the show, what you think the rankings are for this season, what your expectations are with Bryce Young, the offense, the defense, and what are some things you agree with and disagree with that I mentioned today. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Gonna keep giving you guys a video once a week, just going over when they start getting into off-season workouts, any new news, I'll keep you updated. But thank you again. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. I want to help grow this channel to where we can I can develop some type of a community where we can just talk about sports. So at the end of the day, I just want to build a community where we can all be adults, talk about sports, and have a good time. So thank you again. Please leave a like, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Have a good